Welcome! This presentation will cover the proposed changes to the minimum wage and its impact on small and large businesses. It will be presented by Leslie Beck for the class of Compensation and Benefits at Southwestern College. The minimum wage was first introduced in 1938 as a part of the Fair Labor Standard Act, and it determines the lowest hourly amount a non-exempt employee can earn. The federal government set the first minimum wage at 25 cents an hour, and over the years the amount has increased, but not in any regular intervals. For an increase to happen, Congress must approve a bill submitted for adjustment based on factors such as unemployment, the inflation rate, and the poverty level. For the past 11 years, the federal government has had the rate set at $7.25 an hour. A push began in 2013 to raise the minimum wage. The current proposed wage is $15 an hour. The idea of raising the minimum wage has been a source of both political and public controversy. This presentation will address some factors to consider when determining if the wage should be increased and by how much, such as demographics, the impact on businesses, changes to other compensation and benefits, what we are already seeing with some increases, and finally, some other options. Raising the minimum wage may increase the quality of life for millions of people, but there are other ways companies and the government can help individuals. Raising the minimum wage will have effects on all business organizations. What those are may vary, but if increases are done in increments over time, along with increasing an employee's human capital, the overall outcome will prove to be beneficial for all. Poverty is based on total family income. When you look at the demographics of workers, you'll see just under one-half of workers making a minimum wage are under the age of 25. More workers are women, with the majority having only a high school diploma or less. Most minimum wage workers were only employed part-time and are in the leisure and hospitality setting. When looking at these demographics, one can speculate that many minimum wage earners are teenagers or young adults that are still members of high-income families. What do we think will happen to businesses if minimum wage is increased to $15 an hour? At this point, we can only speculate that small businesses will feel it the hardest, since they usually operate on thin profit margins anyways. They may have to cut corners on product quality, reduce employee hours, lay off workers, or even close their doors. Larger organizations will fare better due to the abundance of resources. Some will be able to offset the increase in labor costs by replacing workers with technology. We have seen this for years in the automobile manufacturing industry, and more recently with the availability of kiosks at fast food eateries and self-checkout registers at grocery and big box stores. All businesses will need to consider if it will be more financially beneficial to allow current employees more overtime, or should they hire more employees when needs increase. Another result businesses need to account for is when wages go up, so do payroll taxes and associated costs, including workmen's compensation. Some large companies have already raised their personal minimum wage to $15 an hour, such as Ben & Jerry's. They are committed to paying all their Vermont full-time workers a livable wage, enough to allow for a quality of life that includes decent housing, health care, transportation, food, recreation, savings, and miscellaneous expenses. Every year they recalculate the livable wage to make sure it is keeping up with the actual cost of living in Vermont. Small local businesses could have a better outcome than predicted if consumers take on the attitude of supporting their community and small businesses over large organizations, as they have during the COVID-19 breakout. This would be a positive outcome for small businesses and the local economy. One must wonder, if minimum wage is increased, how will that affect the distribution of wages and earnings? Will the increase raise the income of all workers? Employers must find ways to manage the effect of the increase in pay structures. Just because the minimum wage increases does not mean an employer needs to increase all employees' wages. Many companies, especially the smaller, harder-hit ones, will have to reconsider its total compensation plan. To offset the increase of In the compensation budget, cuts may need to be made in other areas, such as health insurance, assistance with child or elder care, or education assistance. Employees may enjoy the idea of a higher wage, but the employer could have them paying out more for their portion of their health insurance monthly premium. Also, how can an employer keep employees highly productive? They may have to use non-monetary incentives, such as recognition like Employee of the Month or a flexible work schedule. If they feel the only way to truly motivate them is with money, they could implement profit sharing. Currently, 29 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have already increased their minimum wage beyond that of the federal government. No state has reached that $15 amount yet, but there are several cities across the United States that have. The effects seen with just the initial wage increases in one city have had a ripple effect, in that the wait staff in restaurants saw an increase in their earnings through an increase in patrons and in tips. Jobs that pay minimum wage were designed for someone looking to get a foot in the door and join the workforce, or someone looking for extra income. They were not meant to be able to provide for an entire family. Could we better serve the segment of the population if we allocated money to train people to enter areas in which there are shortages of workers, such as trades? We could offer apprenticeships to learn marketable skills in a specific trade. If a person can learn to become an electrician, carpenter, plumber, heating and cooling professional, or mechanic, they could build a long-term financially rewarding career. Where also continuing education, computer training, and career coaching would help people break free from minimum wage. Perhaps developing a plan to help workers advance in their training and knowledge so they can be higher performing individuals, thus raising the company's profits and their salaries. With an increase in funds, individuals benefit by having a better quality of life, and society can benefit from having fewer people requiring government assistance and a better economy. Maybe the answer is not just one strategy, but a combination of. Businesses should not have to take on all the burden of helping the lower wage employee. Individuals need to take responsibility for where they are in life and take steps to increase their human capital. The need is to increase the value of the workers' labor and not increase the cost of the workers' labor. Minimum wage is where you start. It shouldn't be your future too. Thank you.